The immortal John Hancock here, and today I'm celebrating the 25th anniversary of the Sega Dreamcast release. Here in the States, have so many fond memories. Wanted to talk to you about my connection to this classic Sega console, kind of the swan song for Sega and hardware. And you know, a lot of people have lots of thoughts about the Sega Dreamcast, and I'm going to share mine, maybe talk about some memories. I got to work at a GameStop, which was at the time in my specific location called Software Etc. It was due to a contractual issue with the mall, but it was a GameStop, and got to see a launch of a Sega console. It was fantastic to see so many Sega fans, coming to the store and celebrating and excited about new Sega hardware. So I can't believe it's 25 years. So many positive and classic memories of, what I feel this console never really hit mainstream. But I think a lot of people have positive memories of the Dreamcast. It has some homebrew and aftermarket support. And, for better or worse, it just didn't catch on. It was competing with the upcoming launch of the PlayStation 2, which too many people were waiting for. As that was really kind of an era where people were wanting more than just a game console. People were wanting their console to play movies, which the PlayStation 2 did out of the box. So anyways, let's jump right in to some of my most positive memories and things to maybe consider about the Sega Dreamcast that made it significant. I'm not going to mention everything. You're going to have your games and memories about this classic console in the comments below. Let me know. These are just some of my connections to it and my fond memories. I did not get a Dreamcast when it came out at launch. I was, at the time, a fairly poor college student, and got to see other people appreciate it, and later on I was able to get one used. But the first game that I saw running on the Sega Dreamcast, which was in the kiosk at the store I was working at, Soul Calibur. Soul Calibur was just a brilliant fighting game. It was just amazing graphics, fluid movements, and I was a big Namco fan of Tekken series. And they continued that legacy with Soul Calibur. I really think it's an amazing fighting series. There's several in this. But, Soul Calibur to me was like a perfect launch game, as, a lot of people enjoyed it, played it. And it was an easy game to pick up and play. Just absolutely gorgeous graphics. So Sonic Adventure was a huge hit on the Sega Dreamcast. And, here's a standard release. To me, this was a game that was popular and played it quite a bit. There was a pack-in of this game with a Dreamcast, a specific one, but not for resale there. But there was also a special release done a couple months before at a specific chain, Sonic Adventure Limited Edition. And this one, for collectors out there, really tough to get complete with the manual. And there it is. There's a disc variation. It says it right on there. Pretty tough to get. But you know what, to me, this was a great platformer, and Sega was really taking this console seriously. And Sonic Adventure eventually was ported to some other places, but it debuted on the Dreamcast, and for many people it was the 3D Sonic at the time. It was pretty good. Anyways, not my favorite game, but for many people out there, that's what they cut their teeth on, and that's what they remember Dreamcast of. Sega really did try to get out in front and say, hey, this machine could do many different things, including sports. An early release NFL 2K series. There was 3 games on the Dreamcast in the NFL for NFL games, but they did sports, they did football, they did basketball, baseball, tennis. But to me, football was the one that people were excited about. This was launched in the fall when there was a debut of football. Football games were pretty big. And, I have a lot of fond memories of playing NFL 2K games. The first one wasn't perfect, but it really showed the graphic capabilities of the time, that Sega could do 3D games and do them well, and it was well received. One of my favorite games probably on the Dreamcast that I keep going back and playing is Crazy Taxi. And Crazy Taxi is an arcade conversion, and the Dreamcast was very capable of taking these, at the time, very high-end 3D arcade games and then offering excellent home ports of them. And Crazy Taxi was a good example of that, with a great soundtrack. Really enjoy playing that to this day. We can't talk about the Dreamcast though without mentioning fighting games, and there were several. Capcom was a heavy supporter of the Sega Dreamcast, and one of my favorites still is Marvel vs. Capcom 2. Now I have to admit, the original controller was not ideal for playing fighting games. There was arcade sticks. They also had these third party, and this is pretty much how I played. I know a lot of people are only going to use a fighting stick. You know, for me, I'm more of a control pad person. I played many fighting games with a Sega Saturn controller, which I think is one of the best Sega made. And this one's pretty excellent. Its controller was pretty interesting, and it had these really unique VMU memory cards, which had like built-in games. Certain games could do extra functions on them. That never fully materialized in a lot of the games, but there was some cool features and extra things, Sonic Adventure being one of them. Then they had the Tremor Pack, which is like essentially at the time the Tremor wasn't built into the controller specifically. It was like a separate thing you had to purchase. So you had these things. Really, the Sega Dreamcast was a lot of different things. It really tried to really get ahead of the PlayStation 2, and unfortunately it couldn't compete, but had several things. First, they debuted on the Dreamcast and eventually were ported to other things. Resident Evil Code Veronica was a big release, as you know, that was the Dreamcast kind of killer game. And the Dreamcast had several games on it that, you know, a lot of people gravitated to initially. Some of these games, eventually this was ported to the PlayStation 2, but it was first on the Dreamcast and it was well received. Then you had games such as Power Stone 2. This was a great party fighting game. I didn't play this a lot with friends, and I kind of got exposed to it later after it kind of settled down and got the game on clearance, actually, of all things. Pretty amazing party game to play if you have a chance to check out. Power Stone, I know there's some other compilations of it now for modern platforms, but pretty sweet. Now, the next couple games I have very fond memories of. 25 years ago, my life looked very different. I had less responsibilities. I essentially was in college and playing video games to pass time. I wasn't married, and so I played a lot of Phantasy Star Online. In fact, this is how I learned typing back in the day. I did go online with my dial-up modem and experienced the Dreamcast and playing that online with friends. And I really enjoy this game. Played a lot of the first one, played less of the second one. There was 2 versions made for the Sega Dreamcast, but excellent game. And there is an offline mode, so you can check this out still. Not the same, but you know what? To me, it was my pretty much experience of playing a game online with friends, typing commands. Pretty sweet. Next was a time in which I was playing more role-playing games, and Skies of Arcadia is one of my favorite of those types of games on the Sega Dreamcast. It's a little bit of everything. It's a full 3D world. There's airship battles. There's amazing characters. Now, there was a version of this offered on the GameCube, I do believe, but you know what? To me, this was really where I cut my teeth on, and I don't know if I've ever beat it. I played it quite a bit and got pretty far, but you know what, like many things, you know, my life got very busy. Wasn't able to ever beat this, but you know, it's an excellent game, and initially was on the Sega Dreamcast, and I totally recommend checking this out. I know some viewers of this channel are big fans of that. Had to give it a shout out. There were a lot of bullet hell shooters that came out and debuted on the Sega Dreamcast. Mars Matrix comes to mind. This was not a fully priced game, I do believe, when it came out. And I remember working at a GameStop when it came out, and we just got like a couple copies. And that was kind of typical of like a third-party release for the Sega Dreamcast. We didn't get many copies in. They would come in a shipment, and they would just kind of sit there, or avid fans would come. And by the time this game was coming out, you know, the Dreamcast was already in trouble with the PlayStation. By the time the Dreamcast was on the market a couple years, the writing was already on the wall, unfortunately, and here in the States. But, you know, this is a good example of what it was capable of. So many fantastic arcade games is a positive thing for me to think about. to think about the Dreamcast, and classic shooters such as that really showed the capabilities of what the Dreamcast could do. In the comments below, definitely know what shooters do you come to mind for you, and what games do you recommend. Another game that I never fully embraced and got into, but I have several friends. Adam Corlick comes to mind. He's a huge Shenmue fan. Here's the first release. It's like a limited edition with like I think an extra music CD, and so that's kind of cool. Shenmue is a lot of different things. It's, you know, people, I think it's called like a life simulation, a social simulation. It's got like day and night systems. It's got games. It's got NPCs, arcades, mini games. Lots of different things in this game. It's one that I never fully got around to beat. I checked it out and, like many people, kind of moved on. But it really is a groundbreaking game. I think I appreciate it more now for what it did. You know, obviously it spawned a sequel and even a third game independently released. But you know what? Shenmue is definitely a game that when I think of the Dreamcast, it showed the capabilities of what the Dreamcast did. It was kind of a groundbreaking console, offering many things first, and then later offered on other platforms. Last and definitely not least, there was a small, simple puzzle game offered on demo discs, as well as the Sega Smash Pack, which actually was pretty bad emulation on the Dreamcast, but Sega Swirl was on this. This was a reason to still pick this up if you can get it cheap. You know, it's a fun little puzzle game, and so I enjoyed playing this game. And for a puzzle game, it was a little different. And you know what? To me, all happy memories. So, happy anniversary, Dreamcast. Hopefully, you'll continue to be loved and supported by fans. And in the comments below, let me know, what is your experience with the Dreamcast? When did you first get to play it? Did you ever get to play it? What's your favorite games? In the comments below, let me know. And thank you so much for viewing this video. If you like what you see, consider hitting that like and subscribe button and clicking the bell, as I'm uploading videos every week. You folks are wonderful and beautiful. Let's keep it positive. This is Immortal John Hancock, and you take care.